Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the I.T.L. Today we are actually, you can see we are in the lawn. And actually, it's a beautiful day. Even though it's a beautiful day, I was going to shoot it in the garage. Try to shoot this in the garage. Been a little bit easier for me to, but I made ways around it. As you see, like I said, it is a beautiful day out today. I wish I was riding. I wish I was riding. My last video that I shot while I was riding a motorcycle, I went out down, I filled my tank up, and I noticed that whenever I first started the bike up that morning, that the very slight backfiring out the exhaust, it came back. It came back. It was not the doohickey adjustment that fixed it. It popped in my mind. You know what? This is an intermittent problem to start with. I mean, it's been starting, and it hasn't been going on very long. It's only been going on for a short period of time. So I'm getting a little windy out here. Let's protect the microphone a little bit. But let's go ahead and go on with this. Um, yeah, it's been going on for a short period of time. So I knew that if it's the valves, I'm not really doing, per se, damage to the valves yet or the head. So I'm like, oh, well, as soon as I got back, because it backfired every time I started that day after I got back from filling it up and everything. And it, I went from riding it into the garage. I let it sit for a few minutes, and I tore it apart. It's getting valve adjustments, and the KLR 650 takes a 29 millimeter disc, and you have to take the everything off the bike, gas tank, everything, side covers, take it all off, get to the valve covers to remove it, and you got to snake it through after removing your radiator fan, and then you get to take feeler gauges in between your lobes in your valve shims and see what was the thinnest you can get. Well, I knew for a fact I had one that was getting really close because I checked it a little less than a year ago. I mean, it was to the book. It was on a very tight end of the feeler other spectrum, and I knew, well, it's coming. So, but I didn't really. I figured it was still good. It's not doing any damage yet. It's still running decent. I was still getting pretty decent fuel mileage. So we'll just go ahead and run it out, and I'll just change them later. I put it all back together. Well, this time I measured out, and that I have. Well, it's like a hair in there. I mean, there's no room for a feeler gauge in there. The mechanics feeler gauge in there. So I went ahead and pulled them apart, and I figured, you know what, the other ones they're close enough to be changed. So I'm gonna go ahead and change them all four. That way I'm getting the job all done and be done with it. And people say, well, a lot of people are used to adjusting slack out of valves if they're doing that. And I figured, well, you know what, I could go ahead and do an explanation. And I ran into this actually with the old KZ. The old KZ is the same setup as the KLR, except for it has 4 cylinders, not just one. And there's more valves. So it's like, yeah, I'm used to this. Different size shims though. But I went ahead and drew up a slight representation for you guys to kind of explain what's going on. Okay, up here in the top 2 corners, of course, that's your head. This is my representation of a valve, and you can see where the seats are on each side. Okay, the valve goes up and down. As it goes up and down, you get wear and tear right in this area here on the seats. So on these bikes, what it takes is shims. You're always putting thinner shims in to loosen up to get your tolerances, because this is the face of the valve. What it is it's working on the face and the head, and the shims. The valve is actually going deeper into the head. So actually the valve is going up higher into the head. So you gotta go thinner thinner shim on it, valve shim. That way you get that tolerances. So you have to replace the shims. There's no adjusters on this. You just got to remove your cams, then replace it with a thinner shim. And I mean, it's not what you call a hard job. It is a tedious job. But I mean, a lot of us are used to the wear and tear being in other places. I mean, like up on the if they had rollers for the valves, you end up replacing that. What you're doing is you're working the wear out of it, adjusting it to where it's riding where it should be within specs. That's all you're doing. And then whenever you need to replace it, you're going with a little bit larger because you're compensating for wear and tear. Sorry about that. With these bikes, and I don't know if how common these are in different bikes. I know the Kawasaki's, the KZ, the KLR. The wear and tear really is in the valve itself and the head. So there's nothing else to really worry about wear and tear a whole lot. So what you're doing is the shims are case hardened. I'm thinking that the lobes are more than likely case hardened also, and they're lubricated with oil, so they're doing. You'll get very minimum wear out of that. So what you're getting into is, well, whenever you put it all together within specs, you should hear a slight, what I call valve tick. If you don't hear the valve tick, it's not together right. There's things are either too tight or way open up to the point where nothing's touching. So chances are it's too tight. So what you do is you go in, you take it all apart, you change your valve shim to a thinner valve shim. And I mean, the best way to do is use a micrometers and measure everything out right. Feeler gauges do good, and get your specs within. That way you're good for till next service interval. Which I got word from Navy Thomas 8 that this bike, he's never replaced the valve shims. So I'm thinking, well, at the most it has ever done was its basic service interval before it went out of warranty, before the service intervals were done with from the dealership. So I mean, these may never have been changed. I don't know. Chances are they might have been changed once the most, maybe twice. Chances are, but I mean, I ran all over the place just yesterday. My local area. I mean, I covered this area largely, and I also I called these places before I went, and looking for these shims. And I'm like, well, a Kawasaki dealership should handle these. Well, I went to a few dealerships, several, and I got the word, well, they discontinued these things, which was a bunch of BS, because they still make the K's to KLR. And as far as I can find out, they've never changed the valve shims in them size. Damer. And it's like, well, I don't want to deal with this dealership. Off I went. Well, this must be a really old KLR. Well, no, the dealership told me. He said, well, no, this is a 2009. It's not considered really old. So off I went. I went to another one. Nobody had the shims I want. They always had the real thick ones. And one guy even said, you know what, I haven't ordered shims for 90 months. This diameter shims are 90 months. Well, basically, a lot of the KLR owners do their own work. Chances are they're ordering them offline. And the ones they used up their stock on the small shims. That's why because all they had was the large shims left, the thick shims. That's why. You didn't replenish your stock, and the small shims got all used. But that's neither here or there, because I can understand the dealer's point of view. If they don't use them enough, why keep them on stock? I mean, that's a place for other things that could be making them money to go. I can understand that. I can really understand that. But I ended up ordering them, and I ordered them through a dealership, and I ended up spending a little bit more money than I really wanted to. I mean, I spent over $50, and I'm going to put this out there: over $50 for 4 little round discs, which kind of like I choked at it. But it is I had to do it, and I didn't want to wait for 2 weeks. I could have gotten it done, but I didn't want it for 2 weeks. I didn't want to wait 2 weeks. I don't want the bike down that long. I ordered a new valve cover gasket. I ordered the valve cover bolt seals, because I had noticed one was leaking. and it was just seeping. So I mean, I'll catch it. I catch it now. I can take care of it, no problem. And that's supposed to be in the middle of next week, and then towards right like a day or two after that, I should have the shims in. That way, I can have it hopefully next at the end of next week or next weekend. I'll get back in the goat and get her back on the road. I mean, it's a great explanation of why I was getting them backfiring, and I mean it's just like it was one of those jobs where can I do it? Yeah, I knew I could do it. Did I really want to do it? No, I really don't want to do it. And I was putting it off as long as I possibly could because I dealt with the valves with the KZ and they were a nightmare with me. And but this one here was, I mean, I'm only working with one cylinder compared to four. I mean, it was an easy job. It's just time consuming. You got to remove everything. And you got to take a time. And did I record this on video? No, I did not. And I'll explain to you a couple reasons why. First thing is, whenever I work on vehicles, I want to get in and get out of them. And whenever I'm doing it, PG goes out the door. My garage is not PG. That's why I own my own garage. I work on the things, and I just let the cuss words just fly. Whenever I'm outside the garage, well, unless I'm with friends. If I'm with friends, I'll go ahead and let cuss words fly. I don't worry about it. But whenever I'm out in public, I try to tone my language down. I try not to cuss, swear like a sailor. But whenever I'm in that garage and I'm working on something, even my wife knows the words they just fly out, and it's not that I'm thinking about it while they're coming out, and it's just like mechanics is not always easy. So I just let them fly. I don't worry about it. I get the job done and get it out. Another thing is working with the camera all the time. My cameras, even though they're not the most top-notch cameras, they are to me. And whenever I'm working on something that way, and my hands were greasy, dirty, grimy, I'm not constantly cleaning them because I'm tearing it apart. As long as I'm on the outside of the engine, I don't care. Whenever I start getting into the inside engine, I'm a little more particular on how I keep my hands clean and everything else. I didn't want to have to clean my hands all the time and fiddle with a camera. I don't want to get my cameras greasy dirty. I'm not playing that. My cameras mean too much to me. I mean, I can't replace my cameras whenever at willy-nilly. It ain't happening. So I figured, I'll take care of my cameras. I will talk about what I'm doing. And if somebody has a question, I'll try to explain it to them. And I'll try to use drawings to help out with the explanations. I mean, and some of it is, yes, it is trial and error. And am I afraid to show my mess ups? No, not at all. I mean, how else are you going to learn? I mean, this is just not me trying to teach all you people what to do. I mean, I'm here to learn too. And if it takes me messing up all my life, great, as long as I learn from it and move on. But yeah, it is a beautiful day out. I wish I was riding. But this is cool. I'm not going to lose much time. Only about a week and a half, and I'll have the goat back up on the road. I'll get my fuel mileage back. Cause I noticed the last few months, well, actually 3 months, my fuel mileage was starting to suck a little bit, and I wasn't getting the fuel mileage I was expecting out of the goat. And I was putting off, well, maybe it was in town driving and stuff, and like, yeah, my spark plug, it's a mess. It really is. Of course, the last time I had the spark plug out, I just cleaned it up and put it back in. This is still the original spark plug from whenever Navy Thomas 8 owned it. And I just cleaned it up and put it in. I had a brand new one sitting in my toolbox. I figured, well, why not save this one and keep it going? Well, it's a mess to the point where this job, it's getting a new spark plug, everything's getting replaced that needs replaced. And also I'm trying to look in the future a teeny bit of what I may need to do, and I'll go ahead and tackle that then. I'll tackle it. But I mean, like everybody else, I mean, if there is an end to the pot of gold, you gotta work with it and pay attention to what you're spending. But yeah, but this is what I've been doing this last few days, and this is why you guys. Sorry, I got some video of me coming home that day getting gas. I'll go ahead and might see about piecing that together as a ride video. But other than that, no riding videos for a little while. I'm gonna get the goat back together, and we'll ride then. And if you really are desperate to see a how-to valve um, adjustment videos, there is several of them up on YouTube, which I can link you to. That's not a problem. I mean, I've watched a ton of them myself, and it's always good to watch. I mean, that's the great thing about YouTube. If you have a question, all you gotta do is look at it, and you just don't go by one video. You go by a bunch of videos. Then you consolidate them together in your head. Because like, okay, this guy did this, but you didn't have to do that. Or this guy didn't do this, he should have done it. I mean, that's it all in a nutshell. And I'm not putting down the KLR at all. I mean, the KLR, once you get the my basic three major things done with it, get upgraded. And I'm using upgrade instead of Farkle, that way people understand. You get the doohickey done, you get the thermal bulb done, get your frame bolts done. This bike is a sturdy bike. It's a rock solid bike. You still have to do your maintenance though, and that's what I'm getting into right now. Is the maintenance part of it. Ah, you see that bird that was here? He was an arm's distance away from me. Cool. It means they're getting used to me sitting out here. But anyway, it's like, yeah, the KLR is a rock solid bike. It might not be for everybody, but I mean, I promote it every day of the week if I could. And I wouldn't tell them put it down. Just get those three things done, and you'll be rock solid. Then you can sit there and adjust the bike to your needs. Are you gonna be riding off road? Well, you put the crash guards and stuff on more. You can put lighter. You can go skid plates off road. You can basically do with the plastic skid plate, if you want to call it a skid plate, plastic cover. Fire truck going by. You could get away with the plastic cover for on-road riding. There's no problem with that. You don't even have to get the crash guards for on-road riding. There's no problem with that. I'd recommend them just in case you do go down, protect that engine as much as possible. I mean, the main objective in my eyes is to make sure that if we go down, we all get home safely at the end of the day. And part of that getting home is actually try and get that bike home too. That way, if we go down, we're safe, we're wearing our right gear, the bike's protected, it might have some scuffs and maybe a broken mirror or two, but that bike is still able to get you home at the end of the day. This is MuzzleMike. I hope you get an idea of what I'm going through, and I have a slight explanation of how the valves are actually, they work in these engines. Because I mean, yeah, the thinking is kind of backwards in other type engines. I mean, you really think, well, you need to go thicker because you're loosening up the slack. Well, you're not. You need to go thinner because you're trying to get more slack in there. Because what it's doing, it's working and tightening up, getting rid of the tolerances where you need them tolerances. So what you need to do is get thinner shims to loosen it up. Then the bike's happy. The bike's running right. There's no blow-by. I'll show this here. There's no blow-by up through here, burning out your head or your valves. And that way they're nice and tight and they're happy. So I mean that's basically how it is working. Well, this is MuzzleMike. Hoping you all have a great week. Signing out.